is Super Robinson Bros, the podcast companion to our game review webcomic. I'm Nick.
And I'm Nate.
And we're real-life brothers who play different games every single month, and then we review them as a webcomic on SuperRobinsonBros.com. And right now, we're going to talk about Super Hot.
Superhot.
I talked to you about timing this up perfectly. So we said super and hot at the same time. But you know what? It's fine. The show must go on.
I got confused. There's so many syllables to have to juggle. I wasn't sure who was saying which part.
So rhythmic. But what rhythm?
Yeah. So we played Superhot. Our patron pick and play along game for the month of August for the last little bit
of 2020. But Superhot was a game released in 2016, Nate. Okay. That's right. You got it right.
Wow. We're just getting to it, Nick. This is going to be great. Ding. We are right on the cusp of the gaming pulse here.
To be fair, Nate's going to talk about what Superhot is, but to be fair, they did just release a expansion / sequel / question mark in the year of 2020. So that is clearly the reason why we're doing it this year.
Yes, we obviously specifically waited for that so that we could have a very well-timed bit of coverage here. Yeah.
Exactly.
And it didn't just fall in our laps, luckily, after 4 years of laziness to get around to playing this game. Oh, okay, good.
We will definitely be the first webcomic to review this game in this year. So
it's probably true.
Nailed it.
So Superhot is a first-person shooter with very stylish, kind of minimalist look to it, but the main gimmick here is that it is a game where time only moves forward when you move, for the most part. It kind of like barely crawls if you're just kind of stand still, but if you look around, if you move, it kind of snaps to normal speed. So the game kind of boils down to you, doing an action, shooting a guy, picking up a weapon, and then kind of pausing while bullets are in midair, and you kind of plan your next move.
Isn't that how Braid worked?
Well, Braid went forward and backwards, right? Depending on the level you were in. But Braid
so
was
it's basically
playing.
Like Braid. You're saying exactly the same.
If you hand the guy from Braid a gun, this is the game you get. I think you're probably right. Jonathan Blow gets a gun. This is what you end up with.
So and you have definitely seen this game in one way or the other. It's like Nate says very stylized, but basically super bleak, kind of like stark, white textured. Very simple 3D, but the thing that really notice is you got these like bright red bullets moving through space, these bright red characters coming after you, and then all the weapons are black. So very stark. You've seen it, whether or not you've played it, and these things kind of like shatter, and it's just a really, really cool, iconic look.
It really is.
And turns out it's kind of like a pretty cool... I don't know about iconic, since Braid's the same exact game as we've already covered. But in terms of gameplay, it's pretty iconic, pretty unique. It's a unique little thing. I like it.
It doesn't do much more than what we just described, but it takes that and it bends it and twists it in a bunch of cool different ways to keep it fresh over the course of its play length gameplay. But there's also we should talk about too. There's a kind of a narrative structure, kind of meta on top of it, which is I don't want to spoil too much because it's not a super long game, but it's basically you have found you are playing a person playing a game, and this game is super hot, and
spoiler. It's
kind of it may or may not be what it looks like. It may be up to nefarious point. I don't know. It's an interesting. They took the basics of we're gonna make a simple small innovation in first person shooting, and then we're going to put a cool visual style onto it, and then just slap some interesting semi interesting narrative structure to it.
Because that's all it takes. Yeah, you just slap this on this. You got this. Well, and you got this game sandwich that's winning awards. Yeah, easy peasy.
I'm not trying to minimize it.
On game development.
I'm not trying to minimize it. I'm trying to make it clear that they have done a little bit in all these different areas to make it stand out against the competition, because its structure is different than anything else I played. Its story is different than anything else I played. The style alone is unlike anything else, and the gameplay is unique enough to kind of get by.
I agree. It's almost, and bless them for doing it, because I think that without any one of those elements, the thing's going to kind of fall apart, sort of fall over under its own weight. but they kind of put just enough of the story, just enough of like, something around this nugget to make it something really special. And it doesn't overstay its welcome as a result. It just is just nice little thing with a nice little bow on top of it. And I'm the kind of guy, as any common listener of this show will know, that I'll generally bounce out of something pretty quickly. But there was just enough there, like just enough of the breadcrumbs to kind of keep me going. And I love that they put that story around it. But it's not like some kind of deep narrative or anything like really deep. It's just enough to kind of get you interested in, and like, is there more to this? Is there something deeper here that's going to kind of unfurl? And just when they kind of do that, it's like, oh, and the game's over.
Yeah, it's an interesting enough setup and theme, and unique enough too. Like, very few games kind of go down that road of like, oh, this is a game within a game, and those that do, it feels kind of gimmicky, and this one kind of like leans into it, has some fun with it. And again,
really
like
hard,
the style, that like the visual style and the narrative kind of like overlap in a really cool way.
It's got a really goofy, lot of like kind of a goofy personality too, along with that.
Exactly.
So
like it doesn't take itself too seriously. It like punctuates the action constantly with all these weird asides, and that are very that are written really, I think, pretty humorously. Like having fun with the action. Like you'll be like running around. Like one of my favorite examples is like you're in this level, and you drop into a train, and like it looks like you killed all the guys, and then like all of a sudden just text flashes in front of you, and it says like, tickets please, which like what the heck does that mean? And it flashes so fast you don't have time to really internalize it, so you just kind of look around and you realize like, oh, it's the conductor's door opens up, and all of a sudden he's blasting you with a shotgun or whatever. But it's like that plus what you talked about, like minimalist visuals, plus like the way like it says Superhot at the end of every level. Like it's just
on repeat until you stop it, basically. So
yeah.
I guess I don't know if Nate. I don't know if you described this, but like it's basically, and the other reason why this is like so surprising is because it is these like tiny little vignettes strung together.
We haven't really talked
tiny little self-enclosed. Like almost not like time trials, but I guess they are, because everything sort of has this time component in a way. But it's just these like little sequences that I honestly think are best described as puzzles, where you're like Nate said, you're kind of manipulating the time that things take place. I guess the speed at which things take place, but you're essentially solving this pre-scripted-ish, because it depends on what you do. They react to you, but this kind of like pre-scripted configuration. And so in a way, because they're so standalone, it's just like they're these very bite-sized, kind of like, well, I did this one, I did that train one, I did this car one, and in a way, they're not super memorable because you just kind of run through them. But there are those moments where it's like, wow, that was really cool. And I think when you add on some of the like that tone stuff and some messages that sometimes are just kind of weird. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
What is going on here?
There is I think a good while of playing this game where you're just like, I don't understand anything that's happening, but I'm having fun with the action, so I'm just going to keep going. And so, what Nick's talking about is like the structure of the game is just like broken up in these real quick little levels. And the levels are just like, you start, what's the word? Like the action's already happening, like median res. Like you're just like dropped in a situation. There's enemies already around you. They're basically little set pieces, and so they're just structured around this specific bit of action. If you kill the 5 or 6 guys who are racing at you with guns or weapons or whatever, the level's over. You move on to the next one. There might be punctuated by some story beats in between. But it's like really quick playing as a result. Like it's really hard to put down. It's like the ultimate like popcorn game. And like, I don't know, we played on our gameplay video. We played, I don't know, must have been half dozen of the levels at least. And I feel like honestly that was a good chunk of the game. I was kind of surprised. Like the game is not super long. I
don't know about that.
It's not a super long game. But I mean, luckily there's plenty to kind of go back and do in the game. We could talk about that. But like that core structure just kept me like, man, I almost burned through this game in like 2 sittings.
Yeah,
I had to kind of stop myself because I was so just like enraptured by the gameplay, and then like the style was just so enticing, and like almost like I was riding an adrenaline high, and then the story was like intriguing enough that I wanted to kind of see where it was going. That it's it is a hell of a thing
Yeah.
for a good 2 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk too much about it because I feel like so much or talk too much about the individual levels or the story beats or anything like that, because again, so much of it is, because it's such a short game, so much of it is like something you need to kind of play to experience. Nick, we should talk about the gameplay a bit more, because like I think again, the game doesn't do a whole lot with it. Like it's got that main gimmick, but there's a couple other mechanics that work alongside it that like there's almost this like action ballet, and you talked about how each level is kind of like a puzzle, and I think that's totally true. It's almost like a puzzler. Like the enemies are set up in a specific arrangement that doesn't change. The weapons are kind of strewn about the environment. It seems like a very designed way, intended way, intentional way, and then you only have a couple options in how you interact with the world. Like you can pick up weapons, you can hit things with those like blunt objects. You can fire guns, or you can throw objects at people. And so like one of the things that's really cool about this is like you get in this pattern of like, I'm gonna fire all the bullets in this gun until it's out, and then I'm going to throw my weapon at another person. And they're going to, if they get hit by my object or the thrown weapon, they actually lose their weapon. And so all of a sudden you're like kind of running around, scrounging for the environment for the weapons you're looking for, using the ones that the enemies are dropping to turn against them. There's just like this, you have to constantly think about like, what's the next step here? How am I going to, I have no weapon currently. How am I going to get across this room, not get shot, and get the weapon that I need to kind of progress?
That is one of the things that I kind of liked about it. Like you can restart levels, and I liked that once you kind of figured out, okay, if this guy's coming over here, then this guy's going to come out there after him, then I should actually get this guy's gun instead of wasting a bullet that I already have, or something like that, right? And so you kind of have these like sequences that you build up, and then you get even more efficient about the specific level the more that you play it. So I actually like that about it, and then none of them were so long or like these really strung together things that usually turn me away from games, right? If it's like 15 moves later and you messed up one of them in a string, like this one, there's always this like pretty easy way to kind of recover from something.
Yeah, and like the levels are short enough that like and respawn happens so quickly that it's not a big deal. Like if it fails, okay, try right. Wake back up and go again, try a different combination of things. And I think I mentioned this earlier, like once you finish the game, like when I was playing the game, I just wanted to like go back and kind of like perfect these levels. I don't know, this is like the Angry Birds in me or something like that. Like I was like, I wanted to get 3 stars in this level, and the game's not about that. It's just like move forward, which is a good thing. I know it is. But after the game's over, they do open up things where it's like there's challenges which restrict you, or you have different goals in different ways. I think that stuff is what I was looking for. But
Interesting.
The problem is that stuff without the story, and where if I'm just playing through just over and over and over again these little challenges, I got real tired of it really quickly. Like it kind of
it
wore me down.
Like a technical demo or something like that, like this cool, like, oh man, this is a great idea, you should probably make a game out of this, but how on earth are you going to string all these things together and have it make any sense, or have it really be these bite-sized things where they completely change environments, basically like different themes almost that are kind of like implicit in them. So yeah, it's awesome that they have a way, or figured out a way to do that and roll them all together in a way that was totally made sense. Like, yep, you're just booting into some random thing, and we can pull you out of that at any given time. We can layer a new kind of like weapon or sort of skill or whatever on top of that. Just kind of like mess with things a little bit, and it's like, yep, no harm, no foul. So yeah, I think that they packaged it so beautifully. It worked really well. And it, like I said before, it didn't really overstay its welcome. There were times though when I got stuck, where there'd be a sequence and I thought it was actually pretty hard. And I should mention that there's no like difficulty that you select at the beginning of this thing.
Correct.
I think everybody's just kind of like out there doing their thing. And like Nate said, if you're more skilled, you probably like blaze right through it, and then you get a few more levers and dials and things like that. But there were a few spots that I thought, man, this is pretty tricky. But for the vast majority of the game, it was really, really easy. Did you feel the same way?
I didn't. There may be like 1 or 2 difficulty spikes, especially towards the end, but I never really felt like it was. It always felt like, I was getting a little further every time I played. I did another life or whatever in it. And it doesn't really punish you in any major ways. Like all the levels are so bite-sized that it wasn't really a big a big discouraging factor. It wasn't until again, I went back to those challenging things, like challenges, where I was like, what's in it for me? Why do I want to go and do this again? It's like the same level over and over again, and that wasn't clear. So I eventually, and like the game works great in those bite-sized moments. When it breaks it up to which is funny because that's the thing I thought I wanted. I wanted these challenge modes. I wanted like an endless mode, but there's just not enough depth on like in the game.
You're doing the same thing over and over and over.
Yes, it's just
again.
Okay. Fire this gun, dodge bullets, toss the weapon, get another gun or whatever.
And there were different guns, and it's like, oh, this is cool. This is interesting. I might play this a little different, but
they really there's not enough variety, and it makes me want to know if I want to see if they could do a story-driven like traditional first-person shooter with this mechanic, or if it's just too thin.
That's interesting.
If they just realize that this is, the gimmick is paper thin, so it needs these kind of like set piece structure, which is like, okay, that's cool, that's fine if that's the case.
Totally.
It's a kind of a bummer because like when you're going through the core missions of the game, when the story is still unraveling and you're still kind of like knee deep in this in the kind of presentation of the game, it's totally encompassing and
super.
It's hard to put it down.
Fun, feels awesome,
but it's just as soon as that main vein is tapped, like it's I do want to talk a little bit about the other versions of Superhot because we actually did play those games this month. It doesn't really impact the score
the VR
for the main
and the new Mind Control Delete, right?
Correct. Yeah. So like Mind Control Delete basically came out just the same time that we decided to roll with Superhot as our play along game. But I'd actually played the VR game a little while ago. I played some more of it recently. VR game is terrific. If you like Superhot, you should definitely check out the VR game. It is a lot of the same structure, kind of an interesting parallel story. A lot of the same tones and themes, but
that's interesting.
Like just being in VR and dodging these bullets in real time and like with your actual physical body, because that was a problem I had with the core game. Was like I never was quite sure where my hitbox was for my own first person body. Like I was like sometimes like getting hit by bullets that I wasn't sure if it didn't seem right.
When I didn't realize there was
I'm just gonna.
I didn't realize there was a jump until about 98% of the way through the game. Whoops.
Well, the jump is a huge risk because you can't slow yourself down over the course of the jump, so it's just like time is just going at full speed.
Right. But that would be interesting to be able to
dodge. Yes, VR, being able to dodge, being able to like, there's some like new weapons and stuff in VR. I can't recommend it enough. It's like maybe one of the best things I've played in VR, if not the best.
And it seems like it would lend itself really nicely to that too, where you're not generally doing these 8-hour VR sessions, right? So you're kind of just going in and out a little bit anyway. And I think that something that's super mechanics driven, like physical mechanics driven, would also be beautiful in there, which is what this game is really all about. It's all about movement and timing.
And throwing cool. Crap at super hot. But there's not much more to talk about with it. It's exactly what you think it is.
Right.
Same game, that is the best version of Superhot. If you can only play one version of Superhot, play that version. Mind Control Delete is totally different. Mind Control Delete is
very different story.
So they bill it as like it's not an expansion. It's a whole new game, and it is like, quote, more, right? Like more of everything, more levels, more weapons, more enemies, and the structure is similar, but instead of being like a linear thing, it's more like, well, here's this pool of levels that you could run into, and here's this what they actually really cool thing they do in that game is they give you abilities like power-ups that like maybe you can fire more bullets before guns are out of there. Maybe you start with a katana.
Right, they're kind of random in a sense. Like they just give you like a little booster.
They're very random. Yeah, but and instead of being linear, it's more like it's almost like a roguelike structure, except that the randomization comes in the form of like you're kind of navigating this map, and every map node is a collection of like, I don't know, 5 to 10 missions you have to go do, and it's just like they're gonna, in each one of those they're just gonna drop you in this level, and everything's kind of jumbled up with in terms of like weapons and enemies and
as you're going
power
through
ups might be.
Yep.
As you're going through that set, and you get more power-ups over the course of that set that you can select, so you can kind of start building towards things. They stack, and they start building towards builds that you like. It's really cool. I love that structure. And when I first started playing, and I was like, "This is awesome. This is exactly what I wanted of Superhot." Like, if you're not
got enough,
there's almost no
systems that you kind of wish were there from the get-go.
Yes.
That just round it out as a game, but with none of the other actually fun parts of the story and the tone. Really
exactly. Like the story's there, but it's really thin. The structure doesn't really evolve in an interesting way. It gets really grindy. So like I finished the game, and like by the end of it, I was like, I just don't want to play this anymore because like all of these, you're playing there's another 20 missions you got to go do, and if you don't complete them, okay, back to the start. Which is I like that structure, but also you're not also getting deep enough into these builds that you're getting, and they're just being disposed of after you complete that.
They feel
node.
random.
So like they feel super random. They feel super disposable to the point of like, and also they feel like those challenge modes. Like it's just like
totally.
I'm doing all this just to play that combat, and there's nothing else that I'm doing here.
It's like a set of challenge modes, and I think that the main difference there is that in the first game or in Superhot, when you die, you replay that level, and then if you beat that level, you move on to the next level, and like so you're going one for one. With this thing, you have to replay the entire set, and because you have potentially a set of power ups or hacks or whatever they call them, it does play differently, and it can be really frustrating to then lose that entire, get this close and then you lose a set, and it's just kind of like, well,
you have nothing to show for it.
Whatever, I guess I'll do something differently, but because of this random chance added onto it, I don't know what that might be. So it's kind of the opposite of the thing that I was talking about before, which I liked about Superhot, is that you could just kind of replay them, and you're going to learn your thing, and then you're going to be able to conquer that mountain. This one is just like, it just tears you down, starts you from square one, and it doesn't even have that little carrot dangling at the end where it's like, well, but what happens in the story? It's like there's a story, but who cares? It's so thin. It's just kind of like, if you're really, really into this game, and I feel like they play on it, if you absolutely love this and can't get enough of it, you're gonna love the next one. You're gonna love Mind Control Delete.
Yes,
because it's just like more of it, and they literally just call it more. But you're not
play it
totally
if you're gonna play
like
it.
That.
Exactly. Like if you're gonna get it and play it in small doses, spread them out, and just do it knowing that you're not gonna have any story. I think something else you mentioned earlier about like the way the levels in the main game feel like puzzles. That is completely lost in a Mind Control Delete because they're just random, and so sometimes you end up with good levels where it's like, oh, this is actually cool, and I had a cool moment where I juggled this and like I had to find that weapon, and other times it's just like I started and there were 6 guys surrounding me and I had no chance. But like there's things in Mind Control Delete that I want them to bring back into like Superhot 2. Like there's cool different enemy types. Like I don't know, in Superhot 1 I eventually felt like, okay, I figured out kind of like the rhythm, and I can take on an infinite number of bad guys. Roughly. Like I can take on a good number before I'm really in danger.
Yeah, if our video that we recorded was any judge of that, where you died 10 times in a row, I definitely see what you're saying, where you could take on anyone. Yeah, infinite. Got it.
How dare you? Thank God there's no video proof of that, right?
Exactly.
But like in Mind Control, like there are enemies that spawn, and I'm like running the other way because I'm terrified. And that's the kind of thing that I want, and like I want that kind of like varying difficulty, and like I have to now build a strategy on the fly for how I'm going to deal with this one enemy. But I want Superhot 2, if that's ever a thing that happens. I'm really looking forward to like them marrying the two experiences where there's more cool stuff. There's some better structure where I can like feel I get some sort of progression in terms of my abilities. But also there's story and meaning to progression. Right. So
I feel like
I think Mind Control Delete is very much if you really want more Superhot and you can be self-disciplined about how you dose it out to yourself and just recognize what it is, cool, you're gonna love it. But don't go in thinking it's Superhot 2, because it's not.
Totally. Yep, I totally agree. It's like just more of the kind of challenge mode type stuff, more kind of grab bag stuff. And I think you're right. Like if they were to be able to combine some of those pieces, maybe make them optional or ways to tweak it. Like I said, there was no difficulty, so like maybe those are some ways to ratchet it up a little bit. But man, I really missed that kind of just pure play through. But that said, having played Superhot 1, if they released a Superhot 2 that had all those mechanics, I'm not sure I would go jumping right to it either. Like I feel like I kind of tapped into that. I've seen all the the one trick pony, two tricks. I think I'm good. So I don't know. They'd have to throw something else in there that makes me really want to go back to that well.
I'd agree.
So that seems like a really good opportunity here, where I feel like I've been on a little bit of a roller coaster. As you were talking, I'm kind of like, yeah, you know what? It was really good. And then now I'm like, oh no, I don't know if I ever want to play that again. So Nate, what are you going to give this game on our review scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the best? Treasure it, in fact. So, and I think 1 is avoid it, right? So
I think 1 is avoid it. I struggle with this one too, because I think when we first recorded the video,
and we should be specific. Sorry to interrupt you. We're talking specifically about Superhot. We're gonna leave VR out of it. We're gonna leave mind control delete out of it.
Right. I struggle. When we first started playing it, I was totally in love. I was like, this is a revelation in a lot of ways. It's they've done so well on all fronts. But then it was like over before it began, and I didn't really feel like it was super satisfying in terms of the ending, and like with the extra stuff that's there, revealed just kind of how thin it was, really.
Yeah.
So I really kind of turned around on this, and it's tough because I feel like it does such a unique thing that I almost want it to be a 4 at minimum.
Wow, yeah, I could see why you'd say that.
It's like, if you're a first-person shooter fan, I feel like this is a 4. Oh God, Nick's cringing in the video here.
What's he gonna say?
But if you are, I would say just like average person on the street, average gamer, like I'd say it's a 3. Like it's got some really cool stuff in it. It's not going to occupy you for very long. And it like, do you think that Nick's right. It doesn't overstay its welcome, but that welcome doesn't last for very long. It's kind of a bummer, because by the time you're gonna want more, and maybe that's the good thing. Like it's leaving you wanting more, but then like what's there just kind of sours you on it. In my feeling here, it's not a 5, because I feel like there's enough.
It's definitely not a 5.
It's missing some stuff.
Yeah,
but it's like, so for me it's like between a 4 and a 3, and I just can't recommend it to everybody.
I wonder too if if the tone of some of the humor that I thought was kind of interesting and appealing, if that didn't resonate with you also, I could see you going, this story is really thin and the story is not funny, and it's just kind of, like whatever, to bring it down even more. And it's not like I was like, oh my God, the story's incredible. It's just like there was something interesting and kind of driving you.
Yeah.
But I'm there with you.
It's presented in a way that's interesting.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. The way it's presented, the way it's kind of married with the gameplay and stuff. I'm totally stuck between a 3 and a 4 also. I feel like it's interesting though when you say like if you're a fan of first person shooters, because is that because you think it's like such a breath of fresh air? It's something different enough, like it's pretty different. But then if you were like, hey, I'm Guy Off Street, what's first person shooter? This is what it's about.
I'm Guy Off Street. Yeah, I mean, if I'm imagining like an average person who's averagely interested in every different type of game, they weren't necessarily super, inclined for shooters per se. I don't know that I would say this is like it's like this is the Half-Life that you need to experience. It's not
for sure. I mean, it's not genre defining by any means.
Exactly.
In fact, it's like a weird anomaly in the genre.
It's an interesting twist on shooter, and it's like just enough to explore that theme and then get you out. But so if you're like someone who's just like always looking for the hot new shooter, like totally
super hot new shooter.
Oh God damn it! I mean, we've avoided that for the most part.
Well, you've been saying super all the time, and I keep just wanting to just like drop it in there. The super this, super that, super hot. And okay, so the words that we put along with our scale are 3 is consider it, and 4 is play it. Like you should play this game. Like that's kind of where we're at. And I struggle. I really struggle because I think that it's a really interesting game. Like, and if you're, it kind of takes the tropes, like a lot of the kind of common things that you know about first person shooters, and it kind of spins those things on its head. Even the way that it like treats the violence and blood in it, where it's like this shattering, but it looks like blood sort of. It kind of makes it more approachable and interesting, but at the same time, you still are just like bashing people's heads in, but they're not really people. Like, and it's like this kind of weird simulation thing. Like, I don't know. I think there's something. I guess I'm coming to. I think I would give it a 4 because it's interesting and unique enough, and it's got enough holding it together, and because of the length, like it's priced accordingly, right? It's not like asking $60 and then it's like, whoop, yeah, that was like a 2-hour game, and then it does enough there that's like, you know, kind of pushing things that I think raises some interesting questions, makes me want people to take more challenges, more kind of like risks, I guess, in what they're putting out. That I think it's cool. I think it's a cool game, and I think most people should give it a shot.
I'm surprised to hear you come to its defense. I thought you would kind of. I mean, you finished the game, right? But you didn't go back for more, really, in a major. Yeah.
I did, but I wanted, and I jumped right into Mind Control Delete and was pretty disappointed. But I'm really glad that I played it. I felt like, man, this thing's been out since 2016. What have I been doing? But I could totally be convinced to a 3.
No, I think
be convinced to a 5.
Maybe I'm souring on it too much from Mind Control. Like, I think Mind Control was a really, really big disappointment for me. But but I think maybe I'm putting too much of a discount on how well it married theme and visuals and style and gameplay. And like, you're right, it didn't overstay its welcome. And if I wanted more stuff, well, it's only on me because they like that I overdosed on it because they did the right thing, which is like they offered it, you know.
And they cut it out when it's like those TV shows that like go on for eight seasons or something like that, and you're always like, man, they should have just stopped after season 4, and so should I, or season 2 or something, you know?
Yeah, it's like those webcomics that go for too long, and then they're like now they're rebooting for like the 3rd time, and you're like, what is? But just get the message. Twist.
Now everyone starts reading them, and they become huge. But yeah, I feel like it's like that kind of thing where you never knew when it was going to end. Honestly, I'm like, I don't know if this is a long game or a short game, but it's kind of interesting. Like, I'm still going through it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's over. Yeah, I appreciate that about it. It didn't overstay its welcome. It just kind of like wrapped it up, and like that was cool. I wish more games would do that. Honestly.
Yeah, it was a very focused like thesis statement about what it wanted.
And what
to
a different game to play after just playing Red Dead Redemption.
After Red Dead.
Yeah.
Talk about the opposite. Like this game like definitely like it's like just put a little more fat in there. Like let's have some fun with it. And Red Dead's like, okay, we'll just keep putting fat. It's all fat now.
And you know what I'm realizing for the first time is that in a way we're giving accolades here to a game that knew when to quit, and yet here our podcast just keeps going on and on and on. We're not saying anything new.
It's okay. We reviewed 3 games in 1. You know, that's like 3 times the value.
I wish we had sprung for that record scratch sound clip or whatever, and we just couldn't afford it or whatever.
You know what? We can the option is still there. I can still get a soundboard here. We can turn this into the Morning Zoo Crew.
So Nate, what are you gonna say? And then we're gonna wrap this thing.
So I think you talked me into a 4.
Woo!
I think it is definitely worth checking out. I feel like most people should give it a go, even if you're not super deep into shooters, because it is forgiving enough, it is quick enough, and what it's doing is unique enough. But whether you dig into the other things, I think depends on whether you have VR and whether or not you like really love what they're doing, and then, in which case check out Mind Control Elite. Otherwise, I would say stay away. Just like you know what, get your fill with Superhot and save yourself for Superhot 2 if that's ever a thing.
Nope.
Because some of the best ideas from Mind Control Elite, I hope would show up in number 2.
Yeah, I'm kind of just hoping that they do something a little bit different and get out of this.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I mean, I unless you.
So we just
I don't know what it would be.
We just give them a pat on the back for like keeping it short, and then they come out with a sequel game. Basically, that's just literally the same. It's like the greatest hits, but those guys only had 1 album. How do they put out a greatest hits album?
I think I have some ideas about what I would want them to do in a sequel, but you know what? I hope they find new things. I would not be against the Superhot 2 that did some stuff right. And
you're right. I know what you're thinking. We're thinking the same thing. If they change them from red characters to like green or blue.
You're right. Genius, Nick. Genius.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Super Hotter, is that Super Hot is?
Oh God! And this has been Super Robinson Brothers. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. If you like to support what we do, head on over to patreon.com/Super Robinson Bros. You guys can start to donate as low as $1 a month for every time we do it, and you get some cool stuff like behind the scenes and early comics and all that kind of fun stuff. Nate, what else should folks do?
You also get a vote on what we play next, and Superhot was a game selected by our patrons. Our next game we're playing is also selected by our patrons, and that is Untitled Goose Game. But you can join in our Discord channel and play along with us all month long. That is free for anybody to jump in. That's srbcomic.com/Discord. We'll get you there. Nick, thanks for chatting here about Superhot.
It was fun.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Thanks to the butt dial.
We will see you all next time.
See ya.
Bye.